right, welcome to today's Thread Tech Tuesday. At our last stitch together, we had a discussion about mounting work, and I was working on this piece. It was almost finished, and people asked how I would mount it onto a canvas by stitching it. So I'd start with my first trick is to center the piece, and I use a bunch of rulers to do that. That way I can make sure that it's straight on the piece, on the canvas, and that it's equidistant on each side. And I can adjust the rulers to however I need to make sure it's pretty straight. Okay, so I do have a piece of fusible web on the back of this, and sometimes the fusible will work on a canvas and sometimes it will not. But really, I'm just looking to get it a little bit tacked down so it doesn't move while I'm turning it upside down and around. So I'm going to move my rulers. And I want to make sure I don't have the iron on the canvas itself. I chose not to paint this canvas. It is just the primed canvas. I could have painted it a different color, but I really wanted this piece to pop off. And when you're picking a canvas that you want to stitch your piece onto, it has to be bigger than the piece. If it's the same size as the canvas, it's really difficult to stitch because you've got the wooden stretcher bars in there. It's not impossible, but it is really difficult. So this is not really sticking, which happens quite a bit with canvases. Sometimes it will glue down and sometimes it won't. It must just depend on the type of product that they have primed it with. A little bit. I'm going to try the Teflon sheet because sometimes that will intensify the heat just a little bit. And I did do a very fine, very narrow zigzag all the way around the edge of this piece, just to finish the edge just a little bit. I don't always, but this piece just needed it. So what I'm going to do now is, it's not sticking, I'm going to carefully flip it over, and hopefully it won't move, so that I can heat it from the back. Sometimes that will work. I have in the past also stitched the piece to the raw canvas, not stretched, and then stretched it. And that's a little tricky too, so you just kind of have to decide which tricky part you like the least. Okay, so this is stuck just a little bit. I don't need it to be completely stuck on, but just enough to keep it from shifting around. And you can put some pins in it, but I find that a little more awkward. So I am using a milliner's needle here because it's very fine and is a little bit longer. The chenille needle is kind of fat, so you don't necessarily need to use that, but you do want a very sharp needle. So fortunately you can see through, well, you probably can't see through, but I can see through the back. I'm just going to go into the corner and just grab a tiny little bit of this. And I have doubled my thread so that it's knotted here and it's doubled. I'm going to take one tiny stitch here. Knots, always knots. Okay, well, that knot is well and truly a mess. So we're just going to start over. Okay, we'll start over. So I want a fairly long thread since I'm doubling it over. And this is just a cotton sewing thread, medium weight sewing thread. Right, we'll try this again. Just going to do a knot in the bottom. Okay, so we'll start over. I'm going to take a very tiny stitch in the corner. See if it works this time. Hopefully I can get this all in the camera. My camera has to be very high so I can't really see what it's recording. And then I'm just going to go over, it's about 1.5 inches. Do another tiny little stitch. Go over about another 1.5 inches. My stitches are about 1/8 of an inch long on the front and about 1.5 inches on the back. And that's it. It's pretty easy to stitch through as long as you're not close to the wood part. The nice thing about this is that it is 100% reversible. I do not use any gel mediums on anything larger than my Stitch Meditations. The Stitch Meditations I use gel medium on. They're very small, they're inexpensive, and I think they work beautifully on those panels, the wooden panels. But I wouldn't do anything larger that's not reversible, because you never know how somebody is going to want to have something framed. And you want to leave your options open and also protect your artwork. So this is not doing any damage to an artwork. You can't really take off something that's attached with a gel medium. I will speed up if I can this portion so you don't have to watch the whole thing. And this works really well for this size piece. Now I can sell it as is, or I could frame it. I tend not to frame larger pieces because it just increases the cost so much. And then you never know if you've got something that will appeal to the purchaser. So if you look closely, you can see these tiny little stitches, but you would have to look very, very close. It's also the same color as the thread that I did the little tiny narrow zigzag around the corner, around the edge. So it's not, it kind of blends in with that. Get right in the corner there. And that's a good spot to stop. I'm going to double knot it. And then rethread. Now the milliner's needle is a little bit more difficult to thread because the eye is not very large. So you can definitely use a larger needle if you need to. Now, if you had a piece that was very heavy, like if it had a lot of beading or a lot of embellishments on it, you would want to also do some stitching in the middle so it didn't sag over time. And that would be a little trickier to hide your stitches so that they aren't noticeable, but that's one thing you want to think about when you're thinking about how to mount your work if it's got a lot of embellishments. That's just an extra thing to think about. I'm so excited to have this piece done. I've been working on it for off and on for a couple years, so it's really, it's a fun little piece. Something not quite so serious. looks like I estimated that thread perfectly. That never happens. All right, there you have it. Stitched on the back, stitched on the front. It's on nice and firmly. I can cut these little extra threads off. Just some stray threads. And there you go. Now, if you have something that's bigger than closer to the size of your canvas, you can get a longer needle and kind of come in from here and get really close to the edge, but you need a very long needle to do that, and you end up poking yourself quite a bit. So I highly recommend having a piece that can fit on the inside. But you know, sometimes a piece wants to go edge to edge, and then you just have to do that. Or you could stitch fabric and have it wrap all the way around.